Okay, I think we've got quite a few in now, so we'll get started. Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for joining us again for one of our webinars. So this is a spring release webinar that we're just going to be running through some of the builds that we've been doing recently. So just to let people know, today's webinar might run slightly shorter than the anticipated timing. So I appreciate we've probably put about an hour and a half in for this. We're probably looking at about 45 minutes to an hour. So just to let people know that we'll get a little bit of time back towards the end. So in terms of what we're going to run through today, the builds we're going to be looking at is between 861 and 868. So 861 was released in October last year, and 868 was released, is the latest release that's just come out in February. So just to remind people, we do have 3 weekly builds now. So these builds are becoming quite a lot more regular. Just a little bit of housekeeping before we do get started. So just to let you know, the webinar is being recorded today. So we will be putting a copy of this up on YouTube after we've finished it. We have got everybody's cameras and mics switched off. If we can just continue with that throughout the webinar. We do have a dedicated Q&A section where you can ask questions during the session. So you'll see at the top of your taskbars, there should just be a little Q&A button. If you just put any questions you've got in there, we've got people in the background that are just monitoring that, so they can just help you out with any questions you may have. Just to run through a little bit of who's on the webinar today and some of the things we're going to be running through. So my name's Mark. I'm the Customer Success Manager at Street. I'm going to be running you through the slides today and any kind of general system updates. So we've got a few slides around general system updates coming. My colleague Tom's joining us. He's going to be running through Compucare patient portal updates. We've added quite a lot to the patient portal recently, so Tom's going to be running through some of those releases. Jonah's also joining us. He's one of our customer account executives, so he's going to be running through RIS Orders Functionality in Compucare. This has been a big focus for us over the past couple of builds, so we have added quite a lot of developments to our RIS functionality. So Jonah's just going to be running us through that. And then Stu's in the background as well, just doing the Q&A, so he'll be answering any questions you've got as the webinar goes through. So to get us started, as mentioned, I'm just going to run you through a few of the general improvements that have come in Compucare between the 861 and 868 builds. And to get us started on that, I just wanted to talk about NHS Number Tracing. So this enhancement that we've brought in now ensures that the NHS Number Trace functionality in Compucare pulls down both the mobile number and deceased status flag. So this will just help ensure that patient health records are a bit more up to date and you've got heightened data quality in the system if you use the number tracing facility. It does also assist those customers who are using kind of SMS to communicate with their clients. Just make sure that the mobile number is kept up to date just for any kind of appointment reminders, satisfaction surveys or anything you might be doing through that. So importantly to note, the mobile number will only be put into the patient record if one is not already filled in. However, the deceased status flag, that will be overwritten just to ensure that that data is up to date at all times. This feature is turned off by default in your Compucare system, so you'll see on the screenshot on the screen there. You can switch this on through the kind of sham settings, and it gives you the ability to switch on this extra capability on the NHS number trace. So it will be off as mandatory, and then you can switch it on yourselves in your systems. One of the other enhancements we've brought out is, so there's now the option to take the bed charge rate for self-pay patients from the date the charge was added rather than the admission date. So you can see I've got a screenshot on screen there. So if a patient was staying across a price uplift, we can apply the admission rate to the first couple of nights stay. And then you can see towards the end of their stay there, we've got the uplifted rate of £300. So if you want to charge patients differing rates for their stay, if it's gone across an uplift or something, this is something you can now do in the Compucare system. Again, this will be switched off by default in your systems. You will see there's a little setting that you can get to called use charge date based room billing. So you just need to switch this on if this is something you're interested in your systems. So next, I just wanted to run through some PHIN changes. So you're probably all already aware, but from 16th of July, PHIN are going to be making some mandatory changes to the PHIN reporting. We've just made a few a few different changes in the system just to help with this. So the first one is you can now do kind of a data extracts empty file for adverse events, as of course you still want to submit something even though there hasn't been any. So this just gives users the ability to submit an empty file now, so we can create that in the system. So that's available from 8.67, which of course is available now to upgrade to. The next one we've done is something in 8.68. So the PHIN admitted patient care specification version 4.01 now has a few updated fields. So in 68, we've altered the APC specification through the Data Extracts app just to cater for this change. This includes various things. Some of the things they've changed includes removing version numbers, postcodes, and updating kind of diagnostic fields as well. So all of these are available in the 8.68 release. And the final one that we will be doing in 8.70, which will be coming out soon in April, PHIN are also adding a new procedure specification. So this is mainly for providers doing more complicated work. So it's where the surgeon is different from the consultant in charge of the episode, or if multiple surgeons are involved. So this new spec update in 8.70 will just help cater towards that as well. We did this one last because we imagine that a lot of facilities probably won't be using this one, but it is just something else that will be coming out that will help with those kind of mandatory changes in PHIN. The next one I wanted to talk through was around our NHS ERS document download. So I know we've been speaking to quite a few clients that this has been upcoming. So what this is basically doing is any documentation that gets put into the e-referral service, we now have the ability to automatically download this into Compucare. So obviously this has the benefits of things such as stopping people saving this onto local networks. It just downloads it straight into a specified file against the patient record in your Compucare systems. So the important update on this one really is we have built this functionality, it's ready to go, and it's been built in 8.63. However, it is just worth making people aware that we are just waiting for a clinical and NHS digital sign-off. So it's not actually released yet, even though it's been built. We'll keep customers up to date. So as soon as this has been signed off and is officially ready to go, we will let you know that it's ready to go. There may be a small piece of commercials behind this just to get this set up in your systems. But again, we'll just keep customers updated with how this is going to be rolled out. In terms of kind of the benefits of this piece, we did a bit of research in the background on a few of our systems. So we're expecting, of course, this depends on the amount of ERS appointments that you have, that it will save between 3 hours and 34 days a month. So it does have quite a nice benefit to it in terms of saving resource time. So moving on. We have a bit of an update on Clinician App. So this is a breaking change that's coming out in the system as of 8.70. So basically the Identity API, which is Identity Server 4, used with the current Clinician App, which ensures the security of attempted logins and kind of issues secure tokens for users' browser sessions. This has now gone end of life with no further security updates or patches being made available to the solution. So what this has basically meant is that we've had to create and implement a new web-based Identity API. We've used Microsoft Azure for this, using their new kind of Entra solution as part of the AAD suite. So what this basically means for Compucare users, that anybody using the Clinicians app from version 8.70, this can no longer be hosted on on-premise environments in hospital servers. So we have reached out to what we think is most of, if not all of our clients about this already who are using this. But if you are using the Clinicians app or the API behind the app in any way, please do let us know, because after 8.70 we do need to be hosting that from our Azure environment instead. So that's a breaking change that's coming up. Without going into too much kind of depth on the diagram that I've put on the screen there, it just basically essentially shows that we would host the Clinicians App website on the hospital's behalf, together with the Identity API and the Clinicians App API that gets the data. So on the hospital side, we'd use a hybrid connection to allow the website to reach the Compucare database. And what that basically means is it's just a secure encrypted VPN tunnel that just ensures that all all traffic that goes between it is secure. So we have got the diagram on the screen there if anybody needs more technical kind of features of that. But please do get in touch if anybody's using this. We can help assist you with that move. So the last thing I just want to run through before I pass over to Tom is a new patient portal thing that we've come out with. So we now have QR code ability on patient portal forms. What you'll see is if you have a form against a patient record, you now have the ability in the reading pane to open up a QR code. So what this QR code does is once you scan it, it's just going to open the form and it allows the patient to fill that out. So where we probably see this being useful is the things such as kind of outpatient digitization. So whether that's with reg forms, they might be using kind of iPads when they get to your facilities. They can scan that QR code using the iPad and then they can fill it out there and then before they go in for their appointment. So we see it being useful to both our hospital customers as well as kind of NHS PP units as well. As mentioned, if you have that kind of bank of iPads at a check-in facility, it should just help with that process of speeding up checking in paperwork and just allowing the patient to fill it in at their own speed if they haven't already filled it in before they get to their appointment. So it is just that last stop check of, oh, actually, you do need to fill this in before you go into the appointment. So we can do that now through this kind of QR code capability. So that's everything I wanted to talk through. I'm going to pass you on to Tom and Jonah. Tom's just going to run through some of the patient portal enhancements, and then Jonah's going to run through some of the RIS functionality.
Thanks for that, Mark. So today, as mentioned, I'm going to be showing you some patient portal enhancements, but also just to start with, I'm going to show you a couple of little changes we've also made within Compucare. So before I kick in, I will just remind you, that we have got the live Q&A going as well. So if you do have any questions, please pop them in there, and Stu will get back to you with the answer. So first, I'm going to show you some enhancements we've made relating to automated rules within Compucare. So the first is that when using automated rules, it should take into account multi-booking appointments and be able to consolidate forms to a single notification. So now within our automated rules, we've ensured this takes into account a patient potentially having sort of multiple appointments in one day. And we've added a feature to ensure the automated rule doesn't fire a form notification for every single appointment if that isn't necessary. So we're going to go into our automated rules. And just for this example, we're going to go ahead and create a new rule. So with the rule type, I'm going to set it to a booking event. And then you'll see down the bottom here, we now have this form consolidation option. So you'll now see we have different options. So we can create one every specified day. So like I say, if the patient has multiple appointments on the one day, if that's selected, it will then only fire the one form notification out as opposed to one for every single appointment. The next enhancement within our automated rules is the option to have a preferred written method as a destination. So as before, we're in our automated rules, and we're just going to go ahead and edit this top automatic appointment letter here we have. And then as you can see, we've got it all set up here. We have now added this destination field here. So you can see it's set to preferred written method. So that will now match whatever is set within the patient profile, and the correspondence will be set when the rule fires accordingly. Just going back to our home screen now. The next enhancement we've made is to add a new security role permission to restrict who can share forms with patients through the patient portal. So we're going to go into our security roles, and then we're going to go ahead and just edit a role. So I'll edit this one here. Now within the patient menu down the side here, we have a form results, and within form results, we've added this field here. So can share forms with patient. So that basically means that anyone that doesn't need to be sharing forms with patients and also ensures that forms that patients don't need to be shared aren't then sent through the portal to them. So now we're going to move into some enhancements we've made within the patient portal. So the first enhancement we've made to it is to hide the balance and transaction element on the patient portal for NHS patients. So I'll show you where this is set first of all. So within Compucare, within our patient portal settings, we're going to go into our transaction tab that we have here. So now you can see we've added these options here. So only show transactions with a balance, only show where payer is self-pay, apologies, and then exclude unbilled transactions. So I'm just going to open up our patient portal here, and then we're just going to sign in as this patient. Now, see, this patient is an NHS patient, doesn't have anything that's to be billed privately, and you can see there is no transaction element on there, so it avoids any sort of confusion about any sort of balance, even if it's showing as a zero balance. If the patient then does have something that needs to be billed on there, it will then show the balance and transaction tab. So the next element within the patient portal is to add a booking, confirmation, reschedule, and cancel option within the booking section. So we're going to go on to our bookings tab. And you'll see I have these appointments upcoming here. We've now added this booking option here. So we have a drop-down option, and with these we can confirm, reschedule, and cancel. So for example purpose, we'll go ahead and cancel the first one, reschedule the second, and confirm the third. You can see there's a little pop-up option that's appeared at the top there. So it confirms cancellation requested, reschedule requested, and booking confirmed. Now I'll go into Compucare as well and show you what the outcome of using those tabs does. So we're going to go into our patient profile, and we're just going to go into our outpatient bookings. And now you can see we have this confirmation status at the top of the menu here on the outpatient bookings, and you can see it correlates with what we've just entered within the patient portal. This is once again all set within the patient portal settings. So we'll go into our patient portal settings, then down to the bottom we have booking confirmation. And you can see we have date to confirm appointment, and then we can have a yes, no toggle for each of the book confirm, cancel, and reschedule options. So the final addition we've made to the patient portal I'm going to show you today is to implement a file upload component within the portal. So back onto our patient portal, and we're going to go onto our forms. So now you can see we have a couple of forms here. We have a patient attachment upload. So this includes a component that I'll go into and show you. So you can now ensure a patient can upload a document and also a PDF. Now you can see there's also text noting there to help support the patient with what they can upload. So the file should be smaller than 2 megabytes. It should be a TXT or docx format. They could browse their files and then add the appropriate file there. As always, you can save progress and then submit like you would previously on the forms. So this, once submitted, as other forms do, appears as a submitted form on the patient portal. We can go ahead and view this, and you can see it's a read-only format, but the patient can also see which form has been uploaded, so they can reference back if required. So there are all the enhancements I'm going to show you within the patient portal within Compucare today. I'm going to pass you over to my colleague Jonah that's going to continue.
Thanks, Tom. Hello, everyone. I'm here to walk you all through some of the changes we've made to Compucare 8 to make the system behave much more like a RIS. So a lot of orders features that we're delivering. We've been working with our clients to improve Compucare's RIS functionality, and in doing so, we believe that hospitals using a dedicated RIS can start to consider Compucare for the entire process. So to show you some of the changes, we're going to start from almost the very beginning of a patient journey and go through from making a booking with orders through to the reporting side of things. If you do have any questions as we go along, please feel free to use the live Q&A. But before we do talk about RIS, I just want to start off with a very small addition we've made to the person banner in the person area. We've added at the very top right here a small section for medical secretaries. So for Dr. Annandale on the screen, this means that if you're using Compucare and you're trying to contact a clinician, you can easily see his or her medical secretaries, and even their phone numbers and emails. Keep in mind that this will not show if the user or person record doesn't have the clinician role or if they have no medical secretaries assigned. Now, with that, let's move on to our RIS journey. So I'm going to start off in the Orders app. So at the very start of our patient journey, either a clinician at the hospital or a referring NHS GP will put forward that they want the patient to have a particular scan to investigate a particular problem. So I'm going to start with our patient, and I'm going to give them 2 MRI knee scans. So I'm going to give them left, and I'm also going to give them MRI knee right. So the very first change we've made or RIS is on this screen is when we're creating these orders, when we're requesting them. You'll see further down next to our clinical notes field, we have a new toggle marked apply to this service request only. What we've done here is we've made it so that if you are requesting multiple scans like I am today, you can write one note across each of these scans with ease. The note field is for exactly as it suggests. It's for recording any of the clinical reasonings for the scan being needed. So the toggle is going to default itself to no, meaning that the note I write under here is going to apply just to our MRI knee right. However, if I toggle it on and select our MRI knee left, you see that note goes across both of our scans, meaning we don't have to write the note twice. So previously there was no way to record clinical notes against all these orders collectively. And like I said, now you don't need to write them out across each individual service request. It's going to be useful if the scans are investigating the same problems, such as soft tissue issues. And these clinical notes can, of course, then be printed off onto a request form from the top of the screen here. So if I select my patient and choose print, I can print them off on that request form there. Now, in addition to our clinical notes field, it became apparent when we were looking at Compucare's RIS features that we needed a way to easily record and view time-stamped notes during exam vetting. Without proper exam vetting functionality, it's less easy to demonstrate compliance with things like the IRMA guidelines for vetting and protocoling of exam requests. And it also means that there's no clear audit trail of when additional details have been requested to justify the exam. So to help with all of this, we've added a new orders notepad to document vetting comments in our quick action bar here on the right. In here, we're going to be able to record additional details regarding our requests. So for example, I can throw this note in here and hit save. And this is going to be time stamped with when the note was written and by who. And we also have a new note type of order. Keep in mind that these notes will appear on the main patient notepad entries. And this is all controlled by security permissions too. So you can control who can view, create, or delete these notes if you wanted to limit them to certain staff groups, such as just clinical users. And added to this, because our goal here is to improve the recording of vetting and protocoling, we've also added 2 columns to the Orders app, negating the need to trail for audit logs. This is the accepted by and accepted date columns at the top here. So if I accept my scans, meaning that they're justifiable and they can both go ahead, you'll see what Compucare does is it goes and populates the accepted by and accepted date columns with my name and today's date and time, meaning we can easily see who's accepted these requests. Now that we've got our scans accepted and ready to go ahead, we need to schedule them. So we've made a couple of changes in regards to scheduling orders. So I'm going to switch over to our code tables app and I'm going to show you the service request code tables. So against, I've chosen my MRI knee left, one of the scans we're going to go with today. Against the service request code table screen, we've added 2 new fields. So if I scroll down, the first change we've made us scheduling our service requests is for when the patient's going to require 2 or more bookings as part of their scan. So that's this is our first new change, which is requires multi-booking appointments toggle. This toggle is going to be hidden behind the above toggle, meaning this one has to be set to yes in order to see this one. And when enabled, when we come to schedule our MRI knees in a moment, instead of the regular Next Free app launching, the multi-booking Next Free app will launch. That's going to be useful for when you have a patient who might require an appointment to administer contrast agents prior to their scan or a fluoroscopy appointment prior to the scan itself. However, for the purposes today, we're going to be using the regular Next Free, so I'm going to leave it toggled off. Now, the second change we've made for scheduling our orders is we've added a default booking duration field, which you may see elsewhere in the system. This is going to allow us to specify in minutes how long the exam will typically take place. Previously, of course, this field didn't exist in service request code tables, meaning that when scheduling an order, the user would have had to know how long the appointment needed to be prior to scheduling it. So if you take our MRI knee and that both of our MRI knees at 20 minutes each, when it came to scheduling, the user would have had to remember 40 minutes cumulative. Using the default booking duration field, Compucare is going to be able to carry forward that duration for each exam in the next free screen and suggest the right time. So we're going to see this in action in just a moment. So I'm going to switch back to our Orders app. And I'm going to multi-select our 2 scans, and I'm going to hit the schedule option at the very top there. Now, as mentioned, I'm not using the multi-booking Next Free option in here, so that would be the app that would normally load if I had that toggled on. Instead, I get the regular Next Free app. In here, I can use configurations, like I've got the one at the top right, or I can fill in the requirements for my appointment on screen. And Compucare is going to go and find some times for us, the next available slot. Now, of course, on the top left, because of our default duration field, we get a little option for default duration of orders, and you'll see the cumulative total of our 2 scans is 40 minutes. I do have the option to specify if I want to deviate away from that time frame. I can then reserve the next available slot. So we're going to be able to book our appointment into the next available room, again, using that default duration. So we can then book our scans, take advantage of that new field. And as mentioned, we're of course looking for ways here to put the power back into the user's hands and take the need to remember time or write anything down that might slow the booking process down. I don't need to add anything to this booking in particular, so I'm just going to hit save. And hopefully you can see how we're trying to improve the whole of Compucare as a RIS and drive efficiencies at every single point in this process, from requesting through to scheduling and onwards. So the system is going to make that booking for me, which means that the scans are scheduled and ready to go ahead. So back in the Orders app, we've made one small change here, which is that from the top menu, under Add, we can choose the Form Result option at the top here. This option is going to be useful if you want the patient to fill out things like safety checklists prior to the scan itself, maybe to cover things like metals or pacemakers that might inhibit our MRI. Previously, because our service requests have a form to fill out on completion of the scan, as we're going to see in a moment, Compucare wouldn't have allowed you to use this option, and instead you would have had to store additional forms against things like the booking in the check-in screen. You are now freely able to click this option to fill out additional forms, and as a side note, you can also use those QR codes that Mark showed earlier, and we also have automation rules for clients using the patient portal to fill the form out there instead. So with our scans scheduled and our forms done, the next small change we've made to orders in Compucare is around when we were discussing Compucare's Rules functionality. So we recognise that if multiple scans are taking place on the same booking for the same patient, they're most of the time going to be investigating the same issue, take place at the same time. So take our MRIs for our patient's soft tissue damage in the knees. This patient's going to have their knees done in the MRI machine at the same time together. Prior to version 8.64 of Compucare, once these scans were scheduled, like they are now, you would have needed to go manually in the Orders app and choose the link option at the top. You'll see mine are automatically linked, so the option I've got is to unlink them. Compucare is going to effectively link them together for us automatically, and that's going to effectively group them. Now, if I skip over to our scheduling settings, you'll see under the Orders tab, we've got a new toggle for link orders added to booking of same modality. With this toggle enabled, users aren't going to need to link orders when they're the same modality together anymore. Compucare is going to handle it for them. And you'll see when I open the Orders app back up, I've personally got the group panel enabled for linked orders, meaning I can quickly and easily see my 2 scans grouped together for my individual patients, meaning that it's quite a little bit more visible and they won't get lost in a long list if you've got lots of scans on the screen. You can, of course, unlink these scans as required, but otherwise, because they're linked, we can do combined actions and save some clicks. And this functionality does also drive the number of RIS changes we've made, as we're going to see shortly. So let's pretend our scans have happened. We're moving quite quick with this patient. We can move on. And the next stage is, of course, to complete at the top here. So imagine the scan's done. We're ready to say our patient has had their MRI done and the images have been captured for the knees. Because our scans have been linked together, as I've just mentioned, you'll see both of my scans are listed at the top of the screen, meaning we get to complete these at the same time as well, meaning we don't have to complete them one by one. Now, thinking back a second to that form result option I mentioned, you'll see here on the right our form intended for our users to fill out on completion of the scan. We've added into here a new form component type of practitioner, which I'm utilizing through the RAD Assistant 1 and RAD Assistant 2 fields. This is going to look up active users with a practitioner role on their record, on the person record, meaning that I can fill them out as required. Previously, you'd have only had the performing practitioner field here on the left for the radiographer, meaning that if there were more individuals in the room, such as an assistant administering contrast, or if there's a doctor and a nurse administering contrast, or even a nurse helping the patient become mobile, then they wouldn't have easily been able to be recorded. You can now record these as needed, and of course, they will be able to print off in form results as well if you're printing the forms off. So I'm happy to just save that. I don't need to fill out much of that form. And one of the next small changes we've made is all around how we wanted to drive through Compucare better auditing and recording for all of the details around radiology and enhance Compucare's ability to behave a little bit like more like a RIS. So here we've made a small change to post actions. So users are now going to be prompted upon completion of the orders to also complete the outpatient appointment. So you can see I've got a complete outpatient button there. In the past, users would need to complete the scans and then they'd have had to remember to go and complete the bookings separately. This had the potential for the bookings to be forgotten about if those completing the order were clinically focused radiologists. With this prompt, the booking can be completed without leaving the Orders app, which will drive the billing side of things to mark the booking as available to be billed. Similarly, for NHS work, it's also going to drive appropriate outcoming for the appointments, which will further drive the patients to be placed on relevant waiting lists and RTT statuses to be updated. So it's a small change through a post action that we're hoping will increase the efficient use of Compucare. Now, with our scans completed, our images taken, and the patient out of the room, the next logical step is for the report to follow. Now, this might be done on the day, the days that follow, or the weeks that follow, but we have made some key improvements to Compucare at this stage as well. So for those clients who complete reporting through Compucare, through Compucare's reporting screen, which is the Add Report Internal option at the top there, we've made some changes to make the system even easier to use. So I'm going to report on outpatient now. So as I mentioned, one of the main drivers behind linking our orders in Compucare automatically or by hand is to drive combined actions. If you have multiple scans for a patient all being done as part of the same investigation to the same problem presented by a referrer or a clinician, then you're likely going to also want to report on these scans at the same time in a single report. So from version 8.67 onwards, when you go to the report internal screen, you're going to be met with this info box at the top right here for linked orders, letting us know that this is going to be a master report, which I'll get onto in a moment. And you'll see further down, we've got a new toggle on the reading pane, which is apply report to all linked orders. With this toggle set to yes, when we write our report into Compucare, you'll see if I select my MRI knee left at the top there, it's got the same report as the MRI knee right. They're working in sync. Now, this toggle is what's driving that behavior, apply report to all linked orders. In scheduling settings, I'm not going to go show it, but there is a toggle of the same name in there that's going to drive this behavior. By default, it will set to no, but I've, of course, got that scheduling setting set to yes, so it sets itself to yes in here. If at any point I need to report on my two MRI knees separately, I can, of course, untoggle this and report on them individually. Now, this behavior is also going to apply to principal reporter and the verification status if I fill those out and hit save. So we're hoping that this change is going to make reporting through Compucare even easier for those who want to consider Compucare for reporting purposes. And we're confident that these changes are going to make the system more efficient and more slick for users as well. And you'll see what happens then because we've reported on both of our orders, MRI knee left and MRI knee right, both progress to the next timeline status of report verified or report entered if I hadn't verified them. Previously, Compucare would have only allowed you to report on one of the two linked orders, meaning that one would proceed to the next timeline status of report verified. The other scan would have gone to a status of completed and be marked as non-reportable, which meant that in orders, it was a bit confusing to identify the reports that needed sending out, which scans had been reported on, and which ones needed to be actioned. They now both progress and they both have the report on them. If I go to view report, the option will be against both of my scans, meaning whichever one I select, I'll always be able to find the report. Now, for those Compucare clients who complete their reporting in a PACS system rather than through Compucare, the same logic will apply and all of the scans or both the scans will progress to the next timeline status when the report flows down to Compucare. So the benefit of the system being a little bit clearer will still apply here. Now, with our report written and verified, one of the new features we've added to Compucare is the ability to complete proper addendums through the Add Addendum screen. Previously, you would only be able to edit the report, the existing report that we've just written, which would leave limited ability to see who has completed spell checks or who's giving the images a second opinion. Through the addendum functionality, addendums can be added and audited, including those who wrote the addendum and when, meaning the system's much clearer for if we needed our MRI knees to have a second opinion. So you see it's just opened the report and I can add underneath or at the top of it, depending on preference. Now, because of our improvements to Compucare as a RIS, we have also removed under the edit option, the option to revert an order report. What we're saying is that once a report has been written, like we have done today, it needs to remain in place for clinical safety. in place, we do have the option to delete the report now. That's going to set the timeline status for our patient's order back to pre-report entered. And we've added security permissions around deleting reports and also around who can write addendums as well. And we've even added security permissions if the users are able to add addendums to their own reports or not, all of which can be found in the order processing security permissions. Now, the next stage on our journey for our patient is to send that report back out. So we've made some Compucare RIS improvements here around the sending of the reports themselves. So with there only being one report for our scans, it became necessary for your report templates being sent back out to external referrers to be able to identify all of the scans that took place. What this means is if I go to the print report internal option at the top of the screen there, previously the template would only choose to bring into the template the scan that I've selected. So in this case, you see on the left, I've highlighted MRI knee left. Previously, if I zoom in on my template, the service description listed would have only been MRI knee left. Now Compucare is going to, of course, pick up all of the scans. So you can see I've got MRI knee right on here. And these are done through our linked orders inserts. I'm only using scan names here, but we can, of course, include any other linked order details in here as we need to. You're then obviously free to print off the report or even email it back to the referring GP through Compucare. Or as of version 863, we have added the option to use Document Connect to send the report. So if I click that option and hit continue, Compucare is going to open a new window for me to quickly fill out all of the details for a document submission, which will include the original report and additional attachments like images if present. So I can quickly fill out our author. I don't need to do a lot in here, so I'm just going to hit submit, but there are other fields to be aware of. Now, if you're unsure about what Document is, it's an approved, secure electronic method of sending details back to the GP. And we've worked with Document Connect's API to ensure scan results can be sent back. Most GPs will have their own Document mailbox, which Document will route the documents through to, meaning you can get your patient results back to the referring GP with ease. So I've got a little message there saying document successfully created. Now you may be wondering, what if the GP doesn't use Document? Well, Document in that case will route the scan results back through to the GP's Mesh mailbox, Mesh being a sort of exchange used in the NHS. That means you can rest assured that scan results will get back in a secure, safe and reliable way. So with our patient scan results submitted, let's go to the Document Submissions app to see how it looks in there. And you'll see my patients at the bottom of the list there. In here, you're going to be able to see all of your Document submissions. Now, these are just our patient scan results, but this app is also going to cover things like e-discharge summaries back to the GP if you're using inpatient bookings. Now, you can see ours is sitting at a status of received, meaning that it's going to be routed through to the GP shortly. You can also see in here other submissions like our patient Alfred Watt up here. In this case, their scan results have gone all the way back to the GP, and you'll see it's sitting at a status of rejected by the GP. And you'll see the problem underneath is that the document cannot be viewed. Now, the GP could reject our scan results today, or even e-discharge submissions for a variety of reasons, such as the patient's no longer registered at the practice, the document can't be viewed or is incomplete, or even that the file is too large. What we've done in these cases is you can go into Compucare, rectify the issue accordingly, so change the GP to the new one. And when you're able, you now have the option at the top of the screen to resubmit rejected submissions. And you can also delete the submissions if needed as well. Previously, these submissions would just sit unable to be resubmitted or removed. Now, of course, this app will also sit as a complete audit for any submissions made as well. It's one of the small changes we've made to improve Document for those submitting e-discharge submissions and scan results. Now, if I refresh our screen, you'll be able to see our submission has thankfully been received by the GP, so delivered to GP for them to review when they're able. And of course, the next step is for them to accept the results or reject as needed. So I'm going to skip back to our Orders app. So there's a couple of minor changes we've made here that I wanted to finish up on, including our option to filter in the filters pane by requested by. So this is going to let you choose internal or external referrers, meaning it's easier now to identify those reports that need to be sent externally. to referring GPs, or those that are going to remain in hospital for clinicians who can simply be auto-notified to look in the system for their patient's report rather than receive an emailed report. Similarly, just to note, we've also changed the reports functionality to be able to add reports to completed orders, even if the appointment has been billed, where previously it wasn't possible. So if your reporting is a few days or weeks behind the appointment side of things, then the system's still going to let you do that report. And lastly, if I right-click our patient scan, you'll see we've made the menu a little bit more condensed and easier to use. So there's submenus for add, edit, and view. It was getting a little bit busy and a little bit long, so we've just tried to condense it down to make it a little bit easier. So to conclude, that's our patient journey. Just to recap, we've taken our patient from being referred in through to scheduling their order all the way to being reported on, and the scan results being sent back out using all of the features we've added to Compucare from version 861 to 868, all designed to improve our RIS functionality. Now, we won't stop here, of course. We have more tweaks and improvements coming in future releases. But if you are interested in Compucare as a RIS or even DocMan, then please do feel free to reach out to us to discuss how we can help. Thank you, and I'm going to hand you back to Mark.
Great, thanks very much for that, Jonah. So just bear with me a second. So that comes to the end of our kind of live demo segment that we're going to walk through. What I've done is some of the Q&As that have come up in today's session. I thought it was quite good, so it's worth running through those as a group just so we can see some of the things that have come out of it. So some of these questions, just to run through them. So the first one we've been asked is, where do you add medical secretary details? So in terms of in the system, you'd need to set the medsecs up in Compucare. We appreciate that probably normally you'd set these up for kind of Clinician's App access or something like that. So you can set the medsecs up in Compucare and not give them access to your Compucare system. Once the medical secretaries are set up in the system, against their person record, if you edit the medical secretary's record, you'll see the little user tab. If you go onto this, that's where you can assign the clinicians against that medical secretary. So once you've done that, as Jonah kind of showed in his demo, that's when against the clinician's record, the medical secretaries will pop up using that little drop down. So that's where you add them. The second question, can medical secretaries be bulk uploaded through import and export? So what we can do is we can bulk import the medical secretaries into Compucare using the Person Manager app. However, something that we can't do is assign the clinicians to those medical secretaries using bulk import and export. So there's one piece of that we can import on, but the second piece where you actually assign the medical secretaries against a clinician, there isn't this feature for that. So that is a manual piece of work you'd have to do for that. And the third one we've got that's come through is around service requests. So for the default times, can there be different defaults by site for the service request? So this is a client that's got multiple sites with different kind of MRI scanners. So at the moment, it's possible within Compucare to restrict which scans and exams can be performed at each site and location. But those default durations that kind of Jonah's run through, they are global and they're not based on site and location. However, it's worth bearing in mind that these defaulted timings can be overwritten when you're setting up the service requests against bookings, so you can still have that ability in there as well. Do keep putting your questions in the Q&A. We will still be around for a little bit to answer those. Just for anything that we might not have gone through today, obviously there is a few more releases that have been done between 861 and 68. If you go to our roadmap website, you can see in our release notes there that you can actually watch the videos against each of the user stories that we've released. So you can see the kind of video icon on the right-hand side there. Just clicking that will walk you through the user story and what's been enhanced. So please feel free to use that. And then finally, really, it's just a reminder to kind of stay up to date with Compucare where you can. So just a reminder, we do have our YouTube channel, which you can subscribe to for any new videos that come out. There's lots of resources on there around patient portal, lots of different kind of abilities in the system and previous webinars as well. So please feel free to have a look at that. We also do have kind of LinkedIn and blogs on our website. So we do regularly post on there. So if you keep up to date with those as well, there's kind of handy little tidbits and better use out of the system as well through those. So if you've got any more questions that we kind of haven't answered for you today, or anything you think about after the webinar, please feel free to get in touch with us. I've just put the details up at the bottom of the screen there, and we'll get back to you with answers on those. So thank you very much for attending today. That brings us to the end of the webinar. Like I say, if there's anything else you need, please get in touch, and we'll see you at the next one.